It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're finally taking a look at the first movies of the 21st century released on January 14th, 2000. And it's funny, I was actually going to do a bit where I was going to take the Conan O'Brien in the year 2000's recurring sketch and just try to do that on here, but unfortunately I ran out of time and I don't have the proper things to actually do it, so I probably saved you some not really funny comedy, but something that I thought was amusing for the time period, but considering where we're at here, but enough of this. Let's get to the two movies that we have here, and let's start off with the first movie release of the 21st century, the most notable first release of the 21st century, and that is Ice Cube's sequel to the original Friday, Next Friday. So you have Ice Cube's character, Craig Jones, going on to live with his uncle and his cousin in Rancho Cucamonga after his uncle won the lottery, and he's doing this because the neighborhood bully Debo, played by Tiny Lister, escapes from prison when Craig contends with three criminal brothers known as the Joker Brothers. Meanwhile, Debo's coming after Craig, and through a bunch of circumstances, they end up meeting up at the end. And I'll tell you this much, this movie definitely has less of a story compared to the first Friday movie. I mean, the first Friday movie was pretty much straightforward. You had a day in the life of Craig and also Smokey, played by Chris Tucker, which, interestingly enough, Smokey does not come back in this movie. Basically, it was later revealed that Ice Cube basically said that Chris Tucker didn't want to return to play Smokey because of religious reasons, as they put it in quotes, and they were going to offer him $10 to $12 million to do Next Friday. I mean, he had just come off of Money Talks and also Rush Hour, so I mean, his name was pretty well known up to this point, and he was still a well-recognizable actor, but he turned it down, and so far he's never come back. Chris Tucker's never been back to the series, even though the character Smokey later returned in the Friday TV series that came out later on down the road, which we won't even talk about that because that's not a good series. This movie definitely is a major step down from the first movie. It's your typical comedy sequel. It's basically a lot of been there, done that type of stuff. But with that said, there are moments in here that are legitimately funny. There are still a ton of funny moments in here. But there is definitely more filler in this movie than there was in the last movie. It's the first movie, at least with the filler stories, they at least came together in the end of this movie. There are stories in this movie that really do not add up or serve a purpose to this film whatsoever. Most notably, there's a subplot about, Mike Epps playing Day-Day, and Day-Day has this pregnant ex-girlfriend of his who basically, he has a restraining order on her, and she keeps coming back over the course of the film, and she really does not serve a purpose to the story whatsoever. She's just there to be kind of an inclusion or somewhat of a running gag towards the end of the movie. And even then, by the end of the movie, they really do not do a whole lot with her, so her character pretty much becomes pointless in the long run. There's a lot of elements in this film that feel really pointless compared to the other movie, but like I said, there are still a lot of funny moments in the film. You do like the camaraderie between Ice Cube and Mike Epps. You can believe that these two are related, and they do have somewhat of a decent friendly relationship between one another. John Witherspoon's always going to be funny as Frank's father. Kim Whitley, and also who plays Don Curry, who plays his uncle and his aunt. They're really funny in this movie. Kim Whitley in particular is really, really funny in here. I get they were trying to do something similar to something like. It felt like they were trying to do something similar to what American Pie did with Jennifer Coolidge being like the hot MILF in that film, and this time you got the hot aunt here. Like, you could definitely tell they took that way with it, but it's still pretty funny. I'll give them a lot of credit for actually working with that. There's a lot of good funny moments in the film. A lot with these uncredited cameos. People like Michael Rappaport, Amy Hill plays Miss Ho Kim. Clifton Powell. I'm trying to think of who else was in here of noteworthiness. Michael Blackson has a great cameo in here. It still has some good funny moments in there, but they're very few and far between. You really do have to get through a lot of slow moments and moments that are just not, that just seem like kind of filler or things that were not as funny as they should have been. But yeah, it's fine. It's definitely not the first movie. The first movie I still think stands out the most out of all these movies in particular, but then again, that's to be said about most comedy sequels. Most comedy sequels, I've learned now, do about 50% of what made the original movie so special. Like they go back to doing the same thing over again for the most part, and very rarely do you get the one comedy sequel that's actually really damn good. And this one, not so much. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but it definitely could have been a lot better considering what they had going with the first film. I will say, though, I might be on the side of a very little bit of a controversial opinion about this, but I like Friday After Next more than I do Next Friday. Like, Friday After Next at least was trying to do something a little bit different. It took place around Christmas time, and I thought that one had much more funnier moments than this movie does. And a story that actually made a little bit more sense compared to the first Friday movie. But that's my opinion. I don't know what the overall feeling on Next Friday is compared to Friday After Next, but for me it's Friday, then Friday After Next, then Next Friday. I think this is the worst of the three, but with that said, still not a bad movie, but definitely not as good as the first movie. So take that for what you will. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to the only other film that we have here, and that is Walter Hill's Supernova. Oh, if only I could show you the trailer for this. That is so horribly mismarketed. They sell the trailer for this as this something you would see on MTV, because they got Sugar Ray's "I Just Want to Fly" playing in there. They're playing up the whole teen aspect here. They always talk about sex on there for the first half of the trailer, and like, I can't show it on here because, you know, MGM's one of those studios that every time I try to put a clip from the trailers, it's always they get copyright claims. So, unfortunately, I can't show it to you, but you should definitely check it out and watch them completely missell this movie. In fact, this whole movie in general, it just doesn't feel like it just is a mess. Just stop me if you've heard this story before. Supernova chronicles the search and rescue patrol of a medical ship in deep space, Alien. I don't even need to finish this by telling you it's a ripoff of Alien. It's another freaking ripoff of Alien. And this thing actually went through several years of development hell. It started off originally developed in 1988 by director William Malone as Dead Star, with paintings by H.R. Geiger and a plot that had been called Hellraiser in Outer Space. They brought in Jack Shoulder to direct this film. Let me rephrase that. They brought in Walter Hill to direct the film. And then they basically hired Jack Shoulder to do substantial uncredited reshoots, and they even brought in Francis Ford Coppola to direct some scenes in the film, and even brought him into the editing room, which, I could be wrong, but I think he was actually the owner of the studio at the time when this movie came out. Let me do some research on this. Okay, maybe I'm misreading it here, but here's some more information about why Francis Ford Coppola was brought in. In August of 1999, Coppola was brought in by MGM to supervise another re-editing of the film Supernova, costing $1 million as American Zoetrope facility in Northern California. This work included digitally placing Angela Bassett and James Spader's faces on the bodies of a computer-tinted Robin Tunney and Peter Facinelli so that the characters can have a love scene. Yeah, that's going to work out well, but let's keep going here. Coppola's re-edited version had negative test screenings, I can't imagine why, and didn't get the PG-13 rating by the MPAA that the studio wanted. Creature designer Patrick Tatopoulos, whose special effects were mostly cut out from the film, said that Walter Hill wanted to make the film more grotesque, strange, and disturbing, while MGM wanted to make it more of a hip, sexy film in space, which, if you see that trailer, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and not with full-blown makeup effects. And Coppola basically said, I hope that my experience in the film industry has helped improve the picture, rectify some of the problems that losing a director caused. But in October, they sold the film, and it was eventually released in 2000, 2 years later than they originally planned. And basically, the film shares a lot of similar elements to something like Event Horizon or Alien Cargo, which was released around the same year. It's friggin' Alien. It's another Alien ripoff featuring too many good names in here. James Spader, Angela Bassett, Robert Forster, Lou Diamond Phillips, Peter Facinelli, Robin Tunney, Wilson Cruz. I mean, the fact that I had to say the thing that said they had to digitally insert James Spader and Angela Bassett. Was that what I think that's what it said. I know this is dead air, but I gotta see for myself just to make sure. Yeah, to put Angela Bassett and James Spader's face on Robin Tunney, a white person, and Peter Facinelli to try to sell as a love scene, that alone means that this movie was dead on arrival. And sure enough, this thing crashed and burned. They spent $60 to $90 million on this movie, and it only brought in $15 million. Good Lord. Like, honestly, I could stop right there. There's nothing really more I need to say about this movie. This is an absolutely horrible, horrible movie. And even if this movie had actually been given the director's cut that something like Event Horizon would later get down the road, this thing still would have been terrible. This is an insult to the sci-fi genre. The Alien movies deserve much more credit than this. I would rather watch Alien Resurrection and Alien Covenant again is in a double feature than watch this movie again. That's how bad this movie is. And the fact that they had to bring in Francis Ford Coppola to do something that was completely outside of his norm at a time when he was really struggling to find his way again, like, it's just, I've got nothing else to say. I should just stop right there. And poor Walter Hill, man. This was a downward spiral for him. This began a downward spiral for him because no movie that came after this in theaters ever led up to this early success that he had back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But just a mess of a film, man. Like, again, I have nothing more to say about this movie. This is an abysmally bad film. Avoid it like the plague. Please, for the love of God, avoid it like the plague. And so, on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll head into January 21st the next time with two movies, Down to You with Freddie Prinze Jr., and also of the most notable of the two releases that we have here, The Boondock Saints opens in theaters this weekend. So we'll definitely take a look at those two movies the next time we meet. So thank you guys for watching, and if you like this, and you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.